World War II was a global conflict in which Germany, Italy, and Japan, known as the Axis powers, fought against Britain, the Soviet Union, the United States, and China between 1939 and 1945. Upon coming to power in 1933, Hitler took advantage of the worldwide economic depression caused by the Wall Street crash, as well as Germany's deep resentment toward the humiliating Treaty of Versailles, which had been signed following its surrender in World War I. Proclaiming that Germans were a superior race in need of additional living space, or Lebensraum, Hitler set about rebuilding Germany's military, openly violating the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. In an effort to avoid war, Britain and France permitted Hitler to expand German territory without opposition, first by uniting with Austria, then by annexing the German-speaking region of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland, before ultimately invading the entire country. World War II broke out in Europe in September 1939 when Germany invaded Poland from the west, followed by the Soviet invasion from the east. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany, though they initially took little offensive action. In 1940, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway to secure its iron supply, then swiftly conquered Belgium, the Netherlands, and even France. By mid-1940, these nations had fallen due to blitzkrieg, Germany's strategy of using rapid, overwhelming force to secure a swift victory. Although the British Expeditionary Force was surrounded at Dunkirk, it managed to evacuate by sea back to Britain. Later in the summer of 1940, Germany launched an aerial assault on Britain, as the island nation was heavily protected by the formidable Royal Navy. Though the German Luftwaffe carried out heavy bombings on London and other British cities during the Blitz, it ultimately failed to defeat Britain's Royal Air Force or break the country's resilience. Meanwhile, Italy, under its fascist dictator Mussolini, and as an ally of Germany, further expanded the conflict by launching invasions in North Africa and an unsuccessful campaign in Greece. In 1941, Germany led the Axis powers in a massive surprise invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in history. Behind the front lines, millions of Jews and communists were systematically exterminated in horrific killing centers. Initially, Hitler expected a swift victory, and German forces advanced deep into Soviet territory. However, the vast size of the USSR, poor infrastructure, harsh winters, and the Soviet Union's scorched earth tactics turned the invasion into a brutal war of attrition. By 1943, following the pivotal battles of Stalingrad and Kursk, Germany was forced into a full-scale retreat. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Japan, an emerging power seeking to solidify its dominance in the region and secure resources for its rapidly growing population, had seized Manchuria from China in 1931. In December 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Up until that point, America had been supporting Britain and imposing economic sanctions on Japan, but this attack prompted the U.S. to formally enter the war against the Axis powers. Japan continued its aggressive expansion across Southeast Asia and the Pacific, committing horrific war crimes along the way. However, its advance was halted in 1942 after suffering a critical defeat to the US in the Battle of Midway. Germany and Italy also faced significant setbacks. In 1942, at the Battle of El Alamein in Egypt, the British delivered a decisive blow to Axis forces, marking a turning point in the North African campaign. By 1943, after Mussolini's regime collapsed and Allied forces landed in Sicily, Germany quickly moved to take control of Italy, fearing it would fall to the Allies. On the Eastern Front, the Soviet Union, now an unlikely ally of the United States and Britain, pushed the Germans back, advancing across Eastern Europe. In June 1944, American, British, and Canadian forces launched the D-Day invasion, the largest seaborne assault in history, landing on the beaches of Normandy to begin the liberation of German-occupied France. Meanwhile, the Allies intensified their strategic bombing campaigns on German cities. With Allied forces closing in from both the east and the west, Germany surrendered in May 1945, following the Soviet invasion of Berlin and Hitler's suicide. By the spring of 1945, most of Japan's territorial gains had been reversed, and Allied forces were closing in on the Japanese mainland. After relentless bombing campaigns and Japan's refusal to surrender, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and